Alright guys, so our favorite politician to hate, Hillary Rodham Clinton, recently made an appearance on MSNBC to smear and belittle young people who have taken to the streets and university campuses in order to protest the genocide that our government is fully complicit in. So brace yourselves, we're going to try to make it through this, short 1-minute clip here and come out the other side.
I have had many conversations, as you have had, with a lot of young people over the last many months now. And you're right, they don't know very much at all about the history of the Middle East, or frankly about history in many areas of the world, including in our own country. But with respect to the Middle East, they don't know that under the bringing together of the Israelis and the Palestinians by my husband, the then Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, the then head of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, then the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat. An offer was made to the Palestinians for a state on 96% of the existing territory occupied by the Palestinians, with 4% of Israel to be given to reach 100% of the amount of territory that was hoped for. And this offer was made, and if Yasser Arafat had accepted it, there would have been a Palestinian state now for about 24 years.
Okay. So in an effort to try to not make this video, an hour and a half long, I'm going to skip over her wildly disingenuous characterization of the Oslo Accords that happened under her husband, Bill Clinton's presidency. But it's really not even important to get into in this video, because what exactly is the implication of what she's trying to say? Because it seems pretty clear to me, at least, that what she's trying to say here is that a quarter century ago, Palestinians had the opportunity to negotiate for a Palestinian state. They rejected that, even though Israel was being so generous with the offer that they were putting on the table. And so therefore, what exactly? Therefore, it's unreasonable for young people to protest the endless slaughter of tens of thousands of innocent civilians. 15,000 at least at this point have been children who have been brutally slaughtered by Israel just in the last 6 months. It's unreasonable for students, young people broadly, to protest against our government sending 2,000-pound bombs that are then dropped on refugee camps filled with civilians. The complete obliteration of the healthcare system, the complete obliteration of the education system, the man-made famine that has now firmly taken a grip in the north of Gaza and is rapidly spreading to the south of Gaza. All of this is unreasonable to want to protest because a deal was rejected a quarter century ago. That is the implication of what you're trying to argue here. I think it's actually pretty simple, okay? You don't need a PhD in history, okay, to be able to go on your phone and to go to different various human rights organizations and news outlets and social media applications and to see a bunch of dead children being pulled from the rubble and to think that that's not good. You don't need a PhD for that, believe it or not. Now, obviously the secondary point of that is she's just wrong about young people not understanding history, right? Now I could speak for myself. I'm a young person. I'm 24 years old, right? And I would venture to bet that if me and Hillary Clinton were to have a competition or something like that about who knows more history about the Middle East, that she might not do as well as she thinks. But I'm not going to, make this about myself. Let's just hear directly from some of the young people who are on these, student-led protests on college campuses. Here was a recent interview that was done with a PhD student at the University of Chicago. This is from May 7th, and I believe this took place right after riot police, as they point out here, raided their encampment. So this is about like a 4-minute or so video. Let's just allow this random college student to give a little, education session here for Hillary Clinton in terms of why they feel the need to go out into the streets and set up these encampments on university campuses to protest this genocide.
But it doesn't matter, because the difference between us and people like these cops is that there are limits to when we continue following orders. And when you're talking about a genocide visited upon a colonized population of 2 million people trapped in a ghetto that's as long as a marathon and 6 miles wide, when that ghetto is being systematically starved, slaughtered, every hospital bombed, every university bombed, 70% of homes destroyed, 40,000 people murdered, 15,000 children murdered, the entire population on the brink of starvation. And if our government and our academic institutions are complicit in this, there comes a point where we say we're not following orders. orders, and it doesn't matter what you do to us, because there are principles and there are human lives that matter more than our careers and our futures, and that's what separates us from people like Paul Olivisatos, the coward president of this university, and these coward cops that come in terrorizing an encampment while people are sleeping. Apparently, they're trying to intimidate us, trying to suppress the protest that is continuing to grow. I think that they thought they could basically terrify us into inaction, into flight. But this is what this university has never understood, has never accepted, has never reckoned with about this student movement, and not just at UChicago, but around the country, is that the commitment to Gaza runs deeper than fears for our safety, fears for our careers, fears for our paychecks. It is a fundamental obligation we have as citizens of a country that is presiding over this genocide, arming this genocide, and as students at a university that is invested in those same weapons manufacturers and that is partnered with the same apartheid institutions that train that military and develop its technology.
You've tried to have a conversation with some of these police officers.
Yeah, I've been talking to them this whole time. I've been asking them what it would take for them to stop following orders. I would ask them, how many kids have to die? So if you say 15,000 kids are killed, they're still willing to violently suppress a national movement, raising the alarm that this needs to stop, that the U.S. complicity needs to stop. So what if it was 50,000 kids, 200,000 kids, 1 million kids? What if the whole Gaza ghetto?
Do you know if there are next steps here?
The next step is a simple one, whatever form it takes, which is to continue fighting with every breath we have, with everything we have, for the people of Gaza, because the blood of those kids is on our hands. It's on all of our hands, whether we like it or not. If we're U.S. citizens, if we're UChicago students, we are implicated in this horror that is being visited with total impunity because of U.S. Security Council vetoes by the state of Israel.
And if you face discipline, what then?
Again, I don't care. It doesn't matter. There are things that matter more than my academic future. And certainly every one of those children that is being murdered, starved, maimed, whose parents are having to choose, do I let this kid starve first or that one? This is such an ugly reality of such great magnitude that to even think, to really entertain questions about what might happen if Paul puts me on a leave of absence, it's ridiculous. And it's insulting to the memory of every child that has been murdered in the course of this genocide with the full complicity of the United States, of Joe Biden, and of people like Paul Olivisatos and his cops that he sticks on us in the middle of the night. They're hypocrites, they're cowards, and the blood of Gaza's kids is on their hands too.
I mean, listen, sounds like he knows what's going on to me, right? Doesn't sound like some ahistorical, dumb little kid, I guess, as Hillary Clinton would want us to believe. So, listen, the final point that I'll make about this is that it is amazing to me that people like Hillary Clinton are even able to make appearances on these networks, right? Or even to walk around freely, if we're being honest. I mean, Hillary Clinton is one of those politicians that you can very fairly say, conservatively, has the blood of hundreds of thousands of innocent people on her hands. And we are supposed to sit here and take a lecture on foreign policy, take a lecture on, humanity and what's right, what's wrong, from somebody who is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, this is a joke. This is a joke. So, I don't know that I would expect anything else from somebody like Hillary Clinton. I don't think that it's any surprise or shock to anybody why she lost in 2016 to Donald Trump. It's because of shit like this. It's because she is arguably one of the worst politicians, at least in my lifetime. And I'm not just talking about the substance of her policies or the, historical record of her political career. Just in terms of her political acumen, her skill in terms of understanding what's going on at any given moment, and then trying to manufacture some sort of a response that would be beneficial for the Democratic Party. Every time she goes out and she makes these kinds of appearances, Joe Biden's approval rating with young people just dropped down another 5 points. Okay? This is not winning anybody over. So even just from a political perspective, this isn't going to be beneficial to Joe Biden. They need to take Hillary Clinton, lock her up somewhere, I don't know where, and make sure that she doesn't make any public pronouncements until the November election. If you want to have a slightly better chance at winning, if you want to have an even better chance at winning, maybe stop being complicit in a genocide. That may be step number one to trying to earn some people's votes back. I mean, to have somebody like Hillary Clinton go out there and be a spokesman for the pro-Joe Biden side, for the pro-Israel side, not exactly helping your cause. I mean, imagine in this moment, completely ignoring all of what the protesters are talking about, very clear demands, end the genocide, and U.S. as well as their own universities' complicity in the genocide and Israeli apartheid against Palestinians, very clear demands. But it seems like the entirety of our mainstream media, the entirety of our establishment political class, wants to just pretend these protesters are either like pro-Hamas, Iranian, Chinese, Russian proxies, or they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't understand the history. They don't understand what's happening right now. They're all just idiots. They're all just stupid people who want to be a part of a club, and so they go out and they protest. I mean, it's just complete insanity that we are still having these kinds of conversations instead of simply actually listening to the protesters. I don't know what protesters Hillary Clinton thinks that she's been talking to, but I've been to some of these protests. I've seen plenty of interviews with people who are leading these protests, and it seems like they know what they're talking about.
Politic guy has the best politic. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying